Good morning, everyone. It's that time of the week. It's happy Saturday. How's everybody doing this morning?
Hey,
Good
good
morning.
morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Oh, all right. Well, it is, like I said, Saturday morning. We're still in early August, and we're going to get going as we always do and just have a fun round robin here. Just to queue up a couple of topics. We've got a bit of a summer travel theme going on. So we've got a number of people that are going to chime in on some things that they've experienced. You know, we've had some episodes recently, specifically from Bruce and Eileen, travel extraordinaire and all the prep steps that you can take. And we've got some people that have been putting that into practice and experiencing that. It is summertime and there's a lot of travel. So we're going to have a bit of a commentary on that. And then I'm going to take a segment that is, I don't think we really covered this segment of the model, the HealthPointe model, and that is, focusing more in on the economic portion of that model. And specifically, I'm going to try to bore you to tears with something called the yen carry trade and why that affected the economy this past week and how that plays into this whole notion of, being in business for yourself and having options, financial options. So I'll try not to bore you too much with too much economic speak, but we will delve into a little macro economics and world economics to kind of frame things out. So we'll have that on the docket as well. But with that, I guess we'll go over first. Dave, I know you and Chris were recently traveling, and you mentioned you got some experiences. How you doing? Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. And yes, Chris and I just got back from a beautiful time at a Scottish compound in the Hocking Hills. That is one of our favorite places to escape the rush of life. And before I share on that story, I just wanted to share one little. We just finished up our 6-week cycle and have started another week, another cycle. And we were towards the end of this cycle before we went on our trip, and I just found it amusing because we've been at this for a while. But Chris got on the scale, got off the scale, went on the scale, got off the scale, went on the scale, got off, because she couldn't believe that she had dropped through one of her barriers by like 1.5 pounds. And so
Wow.
So even with her longevity in the program, you have that kind of like that you get stuck and you can't get past the point. And then when you finally break it, it's like she couldn't believe it that she not only broke it, but broke it by a considerable margin. And
that's amazing. And just to frame this a little bit for those that might not be familiar, like you said, you've been around a while. Chris has already lost over 100 pounds, right?
Well, she lost 100 pounds. She probably has gained like 10 pounds. And so we're kind of trying to get back to the 10 pounds that she had gained. But yes.
Right. Yeah. So this
and how many years ago was that?
And so that was like 12 years ago that she's maintained the weight loss.
Yeah, that's a biggie.
That's awesome. So you did some travel, you get back, you hop on the scale and you're like, I can't believe it.
But this actually happened before we went on the trip.
Okay.
This happened before we went on the trip. And so we're still in the Add More Food days. And again, how grateful I am for this program. I'm grateful for Billy, because Billy a long time ago was the one who started talking about gratefulness and focusing on the things that we're grateful for. Kathy has really piled on that as well of recent time. And Carol had shared a little bit that I think before they pray, they sometimes focus on something that they're grateful for. And that's something that Chris and I have started to do, is we usually at lunchtime, before we pray, we just say, hey, what's one thing you're grateful for? We have so much to be grateful for. But my sanguine personality would be, if I'm going on vacation, is ditch the program and we're going to go have fun. And because Chris had that breakthrough, and she's really into the documentation of data. So I ended up following through on Eileen's suggestion, and I chopped up a whole lot of lettuce and carrots and celery and grilled up some chicken and brought that with us. So we were gone for 4 days, 3 nights, and it's our anniversary. And so we, on our actual anniversary day, we went out for dinner. But again, we ate really sensible. And then we had, over that time period, we had like 3 salads in our room, which was like really unusual, but actually it was really, really great. And one of the things that we continue to find as we stay clean with the program, just how good we feel. I mean, we felt great before, but we even feel better now. And so I'm appreciative of Eileen and her suggestions on how to travel and stay within the HealthPointe parameters and to bring things with you that help that to work out. So I'm just really grateful for Eileen's presentation that she shared a few weeks back, because that was the impetus of us staying cleaner on our trip. And so, and then, however, we have a challenge coming up because we now have a 4-day trip coming up with my family. And so when Chris and I want to do things, it's a little bit easier to eat clean. When you got teenagers with you, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. But I will do much of the same of prepping ahead of time so that most of our meals will be within the guidelines, and then we'll just, when we eat out, be careful. But grateful to Eileen, grateful to the program. I have much to be grateful for. Grateful for 53 years of marriage.
Oh, wow.
Amen.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Happy anniversary!
Congratulations.
Happy anniversary!
All right. What is your, because Emily and I have our anniversary coming up as well here in August. So you're an August anniversary, Dave and Chris?
No, ours was July 31st.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, again, happy anniversary. And not to totally discount all the wonderful information that you just provided, but I'm going to circle around to, you said Scottish compound?
Yes.
This is my moment. You've ever seen those memes where like the owner is like saying all these things to their dog, and somewhere in this whole 27 sentences they say the word treat, and the caption is all the dog heard was treat, not everything else. So I'm not quite that bad. I heard everything else that you're saying, and it was wonderful about the gratefulness and your second 6-week cycle and Eileen and stuff like that. But I heard treat, and that was a Scottish compound. That sounds amazing. What's that all about?
A long time ago, Chris was freezing her butt in an ice rink as she watched my youngest daughter skate. She found a Midwest magazine, and the name of the place is glenlaurel.com. And it had just recently opened, like 30 years ago now back. And my mother is from Scotland, so I'm half Scottish. I was raised on scones and shortbread and other unusual things. And so we went to this place, and to tie into that, prior to going there, we had an experience where we rented a cabin in the woods, went to get food, came back, and we had been robbed. So we pay a little bit more now for safety. Chris likes this compound because she feels very safe in this compound. But it's a Scottish motif. All of the cottages are in the woods. The cottage that I usually get has a screened-in porch, and it's towards the top of the trees, so I kind of feel like a little kid in a tree fort. And has a hot tub, and Hocking Hills has lots of opportunity for hiking. Rock formations is one of their big things.
What state is this in?
And they have an amazing 4-fork dinners every night that they provide. So we just buy one. They're a little bit pricey, but it's our anniversary, and so it is getting away for our anniversary is something we have done for almost every year for the past 30 years. And as I share with young people and other couples, that one of the secrets to a long marriage is dating and getting away, just the two of us, and leaving the family behind, and just kind of reconnecting with ourselves and what's important for us and where we see ourselves going and all of those kinds of things. And so although it may be pricey, as I always joke, it has been way cheaper and a lot more fun than a divorce.
It's an investment anyway.
I love it.
30 years ago, Chris and I had more conflicts. Today we get along great. But 30 years ago, we would go there and try to solve, back then our kids were young and, had lots of different trails we were going down and what one was more important and that kind of stuff. But dating and getting away overnight, I just feel super important because if mom and dad have their act together, the kids fall in line.
Yeah.
And my
that's
experience with all the families that I work with is that oftentimes parents, especially moms more often, want to focus on their kids and not each other. And eventually you end up with each other.
Yeah. And what
Right.
state is this in? The glenlaurel.com? I guess it would be obvious on the site.
But it's in Hocking Hills, Ohio. So it's about an hour east of Columbus, Ohio.
Okay. All right.
So
Wow.
Chris and I hiked 750 miles on the Appalachian Trail before children, back when I was finding myself. I'm still trying to find myself. But and so we're attracted to trails. We love the Smoky Mountains, but Smoky Mountains is a 10-hour drive, and this is about a little less than 4.
Wow. Wow. Well, my wife, Emily, I believe, is on the podcast on the call right now. So, Emily, I think we might, I don't know if we'll hit it on the 12th because that's 2 days away, which is our anniversary, but we might be making a quick trip because we both love to hike and walk around and stuff. So we were getting travel tips here. Awesome. Awesome.
Very romantic place.
All right. Well, that works as well. Well, thank you so much. And speaking of travel, kind of going around the travel theme, like I said, this all kind of just came up in our preamble. So we're kind of, queuing in on the summer travel theme as it relates to HealthPointe. So we just heard with Dave and Chris that they have this second 6-week cycle that they're in, and they're able to do this wonderful getaway, be reasonable, have some prep, have some planning, take some cues, again, shout out to Eileen. I think she had back-to-back weeks where she was turning her camera around and showing things in their pantry and their refrigerator and their counter. And that woman is a fantastic at prepping for their travel. So big shout out to Eileen on that, and a big thanks. And continuing with that summer travel theme, Erica, you mentioned that. Well, I know that you were recently traveling as well. So if you want to chime in on how that was and how it relates to some things with HealthPointe.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Dave, I have been to Hocking Hills and it is just gorgeous. It's like you get there and you think, oh my gosh, am I in Ohio? Like, how could this be Ohio? Because you imagine Ohio is super, super flat. And there's all these beautiful waterfalls and hikes. I mean, you just feel like you're somewhere else other than Ohio. But yeah, highly, highly recommend that place. Yeah, so I just got back from Colorado, and I was planning to do my half marathon out there. And the Tuesday before I left, so last week, Tuesday, I guess someone lit a car on fire and pushed it into the valley. And it started this quarry fire. And then my flight left out on early Wednesday morning. And by the time I landed in Denver, there was a whole bunch of smoke. You couldn't even see the mountains. And I thought, oh my gosh, what are the odds that this fire would start, less than 24 hours before I leave and right by the race start. And so I kept, the race kept sending out email notifications. And then finally by Thursday, they said they had to cancel the race because they couldn't contain the fire. And I was so bummed initially because I'd been doing all my training and really excited to run a half marathon in the Rocky Mountains. But then, I had a good friend out there who knew the area, and we just pivoted and we ended up doing this Manitou incline, which is a mile long, but you go 2,000 feet up in elevation. So it's super steep. And if you go and check it out online, like a lot of Olympians will train on there. I was getting lapped by 70-year-olds that were like going up the second time. I mean, it was just so inspiring. And then when I got to the top, my friend was still behind me, wasn't quite as conditioned. And, they told me just keep going. And so when I got to the top, a few people mentioned, if you keep going another quarter of a mile, you will be able to see a beautiful view of Pikes Peak. So, nobody else was going. Once they got to the top of this Manitou incline, they were like stuck in their water. And I'm like, I'm going to keep going before my friend gets to the top. So I decided to keep going, and there's nobody else on this trail. And I'm thinking, is this the right trail? Like, am I going to run into a bear? And this lady comes up behind me with two like walking sticks. She's maybe like mid 60s. And so I asked her, she looks like she knows what she's doing. I'm like, is this the trail to like see Pikes Peak? And she goes, yeah, come on, babe, this is the way to go. And, we're just kind of chatting. And I tell her I was supposed to run the half and it got canceled. And she goes, oh, well, we're on a mission then, pick it up. And so we start running. And I find out that she is a super famous ultra athlete. She was an American tennis player. Her name is Diane Van Daren. She won the Yukon Trail Ultra, which is like 430-kilometer race. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the documentary Free Solo,
Yes.
but she goes, that's my production team. She was sponsored by North Face. She spoke all over the world. I mean, and I got a picture with her and I got to run a mile with her. It was just so cool. And then my friend, by the last day, we ended up doing a really, really pretty hike called Cloud of the Lakes, or Lake of the Clouds. And at the top between the mountains is like some really cold mountain water lakes. And so we decided to do a couple cold plunges up there. And I had mentioned it to Diane when we were running. And she goes, oh, girl, she's like, that's going to be way better than your Rocky Mountain half. And it was just such an awesome trip. And I thought I was going to be so bummed that my race was canceled. And now I got a voucher to be able to do it next year. And so how this applies to HealthPointe, sometimes you might be planning to do something, or you might have all your prep, like food, and maybe, it gets warm in your car and you feel like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? You can always pivot. And sometimes it ends up being better than what you expected. So, I've had a few clients who, prepped a nice lunch and or dinner for a trip and then forgot it at home. And they ended up going and finding like a really nice restaurant and having a good time, or, so many grocery stores or even 7-Elevens. Like you can pick up some hard-boiled eggs or a low-fat cheese stick or whatever. Sometimes, the pivots end up being better than what you had originally planned. So anyways, that's my little story about my trip.
That sounds amazing. And yeah, I think I probably speak for the rest of the group here when I'm hearing you tell this story that, wow, you're probably grateful that we're not grateful that somebody started a fire, but what I'm saying is that you're grateful that that half marathon got canceled. And certainly if you're not, the rest of us are, because that was an amazing story. And what an amazing individual that you met with that Diane. I'm going to have to look her up. Definitely have seen that Free Solo. For those of you that have not seen it, it is about, his name is Alex, is it Holman? Anyhow, he's one of these guys. Free Solo means you climb mountains without gear. You climb. If you slip, you're gone. And if you ever want to have your palms sweating while you're watching a documentary, just queue up Free Solo on Netflix and just get ready to just Absolutely. I think my whole body was just sweating with nervousness. I was sweating for the film team. So, because they alone have to hang on the side of this mountain and be filming him. And I'm sure they chatted it out in their pre-production planning that, if I grab onto a rock and it flakes off, you're catching me live on camera, dropping a couple thousand feet. And so to hear that you got to meet this person and then her background, that she had such a amazing, I can't recall, I didn't jot down what the race was that you said that she
Yeah,
did.
it was the Yukon Trail. It's like 430-kilometer race. She won it in 2009.
Wow. Jeez. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look her up. Sounds amazing. Well, thank you for that. That was so fun. And you also, sticking with the ultimate in terms of healthy living, a good workout out there. I love how you're saying that you were lapped by 70-year-olds that were lapping you in their training out there. And the Manitou Incline, boy, I think we're going to have to put that on the bucket list. That sounds like a travel destination for sure. So we've got Hocking Hills, GlenLaurel.com, the Scottish Compound, and now we've got out west the Manitou Incline. And
what's that? We do qualify.
We got some background unmuted, guys. So remember, you're on a hot mic. So, but speaking of what, and again, thank you so much, Erica. We're going to continue around the horn, a bit of a summer travel theme. And Carol, I know you were recently gracing us up here, you and Hank were up here in Michigan, and now you're back to Florida. So if you're still there and want to chat about that. All right.
Welcome everybody. I love these stories, and all I can think of is a picture that I have in one of my dream books way back, and it was called Seize the Moment. And I think I love the word pivot. And I think when you pivot and keep your options open, the beautiful things that can happen. And many times Hank and I will kind of just go back and forth. We'll be sitting on a sofa or something, and we'll start going off into different tangents, and we'll think of all the different times that spur of the moment things. Some of our best times in our travels have been spur of the moment, pivoting, seizing the moment. And I think of one time we went out to Las Vegas. Now, Hank didn't participate in this, but I went out with a team. Actually, we were in Las Vegas, and one of the things they had was the Edge seminar, and I think it was called the Edge. And what you did was they took you up into the Rocky Mountains, and you did three things. You did rappelling off a mountain, climbing up a mountain, and then leaning over into a canyon. And I said, you know what? The year before, I had turned something similar to that down, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to grasp the moment. I'm going to seize the moment. And so I signed up for it and went out there, and it was exhilarating because I'd never rappelled off a mountain. This was 100-foot, nothing. That one was a 200-foot mountain where you rappel back. That's a very unique experience if you've never done it, because basically you're thrusting yourself out into midair and then hopefully coming back to the mountain and going all the way down. So we did that. And then the second part of that leg of that experience was climbing up a mountain. Now, we did have a belt on, okay? But the belt had a lot of leeway, so you definitely got the feel of it. And so then we climbed up a mountain, and we laughed because I was the only one that I didn't break a nail. I still had long nails back then. I still do. And didn't break a nail, and climbed up 200 feet up a mountain, which was exhilarating. But the third one was the best. And the third one is they took you into the canyon, like into the canyon. And they had a ledge, a very small ledge. It maybe was 2 feet, just enough to kind of stand on it. And then they had a big chain around your waist, and then they lassoed it to part of the mountain. But the chain had about a 3-4 foot give on it. So what the instructor would do is he would let the chain out. He would let the give out. And so what you were doing is you were standing on this ledge. Your arms were stretched out wide out on your sides. And he would literally keep feeding you out into the canyon where you had absolutely no control over your body except the trust of the person holding the chain or holding the rope. And you get out there and you are like maybe not 90, but about 45 feet out where you have absolutely no control, and you're looking down in this massive 300 deep canyon. And the exhilaration, I can still remember the electricity going through my arms and out my fingertips. And it was just the most amazing experience. And I remember yelling out into the canyon, praise God. And somebody behind us said, oh God. I still remember that, but it was wonderful. And when you seize those kinds of moments, now you don't have to do something crazy like that, but when you seize those moments, and like Erica and David were both saying, that just pivoting, changing, having experience, and then going back and making that a memory, those are all just really, really wonderful things. Well, talking about grateful, I'll make this real quick, but many of you know that we had it started out a tropical storm. It ended up a hurricane that came through Florida, Debbie. And what happened is it decided it was going to settle in our area. And so it was, I don't believe it was a hurricane at that time, but we were gone. Okay, here's the story. We were gone. We left on Thursday, and I think it started around Saturday or Sunday or something. So we were up in Michigan enjoying pontoon rides in the sunshine, and Florida was being flooded. And so all of our neighborhood, all of our neighborhood was fine. We had water probably up our street and about a third way up our driveway, and all the streets were flooded, but none of the houses got flooded. We were very blessed. All outside, we couldn't get into our neighborhood because all the streets were flooded, and they took them days to drain. But all that being said, we're very grateful that we were protected and didn't have any kind of damage whatsoever, because our community across the street they had to totally evacuate. They were totally underwater. So we are very, very blessed for that. And then we came back, all the streets were drained out, and nothing looked like anything had happened. So we're very grateful for that pocket of time. And I'm sure our son Craig is very grateful, because he flies into Denver all the time, Erica. And that was the week he didn't fly in because we were coming in. So he didn't schedule any business travel. So he didn't get into that fire situation. But as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, yeah, I think Craig is grateful too. So anyway, yeah, so we stayed with my daughter-in-law and son. And we have one daughter, our girls are grown. We have one daughter that is gluten-free, and another one that can't do lactose, and just a lot of things. So they're kind of they're both slender, okay, and fit. But so there wasn't a lot of junk food laying around, which I was very, very grateful. But my daughter-in-law has been very conscious of food, making things from scratch and stuff. So I would say if there was somebody that you could stay with, family, well, all of our kids, but it was not a point of she had all this junk laying around. There was chips and stuff like that in the pantry, but it was out of sight. But you can do those things, because like one time they ordered pizza, but they ordered this beautiful salad along with it from Gus's. Gus is a Michigan only. I don't know if it's out on the West. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, they have the best chicken. I think there was cranberries and nuts. And then there's a huge salad, and there's really, really good dressing for it. So I love the salad so much. I just ate the salad, never even touched the pizza. And I think part of that goes with when you're on maintenance for so long, or lifestyle, or whatever you want to call it, after you get off HealthPointe, you just have a clean tongue. You just go for the clean things. And even like when I always throw stuff in I go traveling when I'm flying prepared to be stuck 8 hours somewhere. So I always come plenty of books, all my devices charged up, and stuff to eat. So we brought a bunch of bars, and we brought baggies of I'm onto the raw nuts thing. And so for snacks, I love raw nuts because they're so good for you. So we get off Amazon, we get these they're cashew, pecan, almond, and walnut. And then they have a little bit of berry, a little bit of goji berry, and pumpkin seeds. So they're very, very high in omegas. Now, you wouldn't probably munch on those and on your program, but you certainly would make that a wonderful treat when you're off your program and lifetime maintenance. Got great oils in them, what have you. And so we munched on those on the plane. We happen to have a plane that didn't even serve water. You had to even buy your own water. Pretty amazing. But it was a straight shot from Sarasota to Flint, so we took it. But so I think a lot of it is everybody is saying here is preparation, and then just also ending up with really a clean tongue. I mean, we just didn't have that desire to go for that super rich stuff, except the night we went to Ford's Garage. And we did have a decadent hamburger, but I took the top bun off, so it was only that little thin bun on the bottom. And so I had probably a month's supply of meat that night.
Ford's Garage is so good, and it's right down the street from my work.
Yeah,
it's like a half a mile from my work. I could have met you up.
Oh yeah, well, this was up in Michigan. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm getting my areas mixed. Yeah, it's really, really good. So I had the jalapeno something or other. It was a limited edition, and I asked the girl, "Is it limited because people are keeling over after they eat it?" But anyway, so it's all good, and I just think two things. One, if you're staying with family, it can't be weird, but also I think you can be selective. You don't have to dive into junk food if they've got it laying around. People don't really, and they're not studying whether you're eating potato chips or not. And so I just think a lot of that is just personal responsibility, keeping it low key, and enjoying. There's always good food. There's always good food if you're looking for it. And there's always reasons why you can junk out if you're looking for that. So
I love that. Man, couple of key takeaways there. I've never heard the phrase a clean tongue. And I've often tried to describe what you just say in 2 words, a clean tongue. And what I can say about that, and it was one thing that Emily and I experienced, we didn't anticipate this. It was never something that was mentioned to me while we were doing our 6-week cycles, or if it was, I didn't pick up on it, that literally your taste buds will change. And
do.
And so that was something where we just kind of one day realized, wow, I literally am eating this not because I feel I should, but rather because I want to. And I love that phrase, having a clean tongue. And also as it relates
it's a habit you get into too, Eric.
Yeah.
We had
making your choices, making the choices.
We had a lunch. I treated our daughter-in-law because she had her birthday, and then we got together with Hank's sisters, and here's the difference. I had a salad with a piece of salmon on it. It was absolutely wonderful. I did not feel denied. They had sourdough bread. I had a little corner of it dipped in olive oil, and that was it. And I had my bottle of perfect water with me, and then you take the sisters, and they all had big fat hamburgers and French fries, and so that's the difference. It's just, you just go after that stuff that you grow to like, you grow to love, actually. So it's all about choices.
Absolutely. And like you said, you didn't feel denied with that. That was something that you actually chose. And then I also like your phrase, because we often have fun with this. It's a David Dornan phrase of "don't be weird." So we say, the first rule of HealthPointe is don't be weird. If you're at that birthday party or that wedding, don't be some, weirdo that's, cuddled in the corner with your sprig of broccoli, shunning any cake or something like that. Don't be weird. No. But I like how you add the next part. You say, don't be weird, but be selective. Right. That's the all important caveat. The notion of don't be weird doesn't mean that you show up at the birthday party and go face down into the cake that they just delivered. But have a bit. Don't be weird. Enjoy it. Be part of the celebration. But be selective. use your prefrontal cortex and have some decision-making power here,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, and I love the phrase "eat this, not that," and there's a whole series of books on that. And I was telling our one son, Dave, I said, instead of eating this, choose that, because he's got a diet that needs to be addressed. And he said, Mom, on the weekends, he eats clean during the week and then he eats junk on the weekend. And I said, well, you got to get away from that. So he says, I love chocolate covered blueberries, dark chocolate covered blueberries. Well, okay. But if you got high numbers, perhaps chocolate covered blueberries is not the thing you want to do. I said, get your 92% dark chocolate. He said, oh, that stuff tastes terrible. I said, yeah, put a couple of raisins on each one of those little squares and you see how wonderful it tastes. Now there's a simple little thing. Which one is the cleanest? The one that's, got sugar at the first ingredient, or the one that is dark cocoa with a couple of raisins. A couple of raisins isn't going to kill you. Actually, raisins are good for you in moderation. They're even on the HealthPointe list, believe it or not. So it's just a mindset that you come into. And what's interesting too, and I'll wrap this up, is I said to my daughter earlier, there was about 6 birthdays within the next, well, hers was the 31st of July and then up to mid-September. So I said, well, if we're all celebrating birthdays and we're all going to get together on the boat on Saturday as a family, if you want, I can, we can get a cake. And she said, well, we can. And she said, and bad me for even suggesting it, but she said, but nobody eats cake here. My one daughter can't eat it. The other one won't eat it. And I said, well, we won't eat it either. So scrap the cake. She says, why don't I just instead she's got this wonderful raspberry dessert. And again, she's a very clean cooker. And so, everybody dived into the dessert. It was a raspberry something or other. I had a couple spoonfuls of it. It was wonderful. I didn't deny myself, and nobody sat there and measured how much I had. It just wasn't a big deal. So it's not a big deal if you don't make it a big deal.
Can I
totally.
pitch in a little bit here, guys?
Hey,
This
Hank.
is
Yeah,
Hank.
absolutely.
Yeah, and also I give Carol a lot of credit. She pre-planned about shipping products up there before we arrived. Perfect water, excess protein shakes, okay? And I don't know what else you shipped over there, Carol. It was all great.
All-in-one shakes. Yeah, twist tubes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got wonderful stuff. Ship it up.
You made note of that on a previous episode. It might have been the last episode, and I certainly took a cue on that one because I've never done that, and that's brilliant. So these days it's so easy to ship, and you just take your boxed up products and boom, ship them up to Michigan in this case.
Yeah, we had excess. Well, our girls love excess, and so it was kind of a gift for them. And we had all the stuff that we needed. We left everything behind that we didn't use, and so yeah.
Wow.
Very easy to do.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Hank, and that's a real important point there. Again, we're picking up on kind of rolling application of I'd say the past couple of weeks themes on the Walk and Talk episode, and that is we talked about being grateful. Kathy really had a inaugural topic of the gratefulness and how that is, if we just default to our no proactive decisions of behavior, we usually default into increasingly becoming negative and grumbly and complainer, and she kind of brought us into check with a specific methodology for being grateful. And Carol, you're carrying on with that theme of all the things that you guys are grateful for, including not having to replace your roof once again with from the last hurricane. So I know a big hallelujah on that one. And then again, continuing with the theme from the past couple of weeks with particularly with Bruce and Eileen, and so much on the preparation on travel. And here we are in the summertime and so much travel going on. And some real key applications and takeaways, and how you not only can still enjoy yourself, arguably you enjoy yourself more. Because when you feel good, when you don't feel sluggish and lethargic and just, awful, then you're going to enjoy your travel and so forth all the more. So
I
great,
will
great.
give a shout out to Bruce and Eileen too. They might not be on because I think they're preparing to head for the Poconos, but she did share with me during the week that she hit her all-time low, and that was on the road. So you can
Wow.
hit all-time low while you're traveling, and I think that's a great.
Already, I know we've mentioned it before, combined weight down between the two of them is like 100, 110 pounds, but I think Eileen's in the 60, 70-ish range or so.
Yeah, I've kind of lost touch too because I was out to lunch for the last week, but I think Bruce was right around 50, and I think Eileen was over 70. I'm sure she's over 70.
So combined, we're clocking in over 120, and then she was, very transparent on a number of episodes about some of their meds that have either been reduced. I don't remember the specifics, but either reduced or eliminated. We're talking things. I don't recall if it was like, blood pressure or what types of meds, and that's, aside from the physical weight loss and all the physical benefits of that, the knees, the hips, the joints, and so forth, but to have your metabolic systems and your major biomarkers of heart and livers. You talked about that too, about fatty liver disease, basically arresting that fatty liver disease that is so chronic right now in many Americans, not necessarily because of alcohol, but because of how the body metabolizes sugar. And you're getting fatty liver disease in children that clearly are not alcoholics, but they have this similar sclerosis of the liver that's coming from eating so much sugar. And so I remember one episode where she noted that her doctor, I don't know, wanted to leap into her arms and hug her or something like that because she had arrested that. And that was relatively, Carol, they've been on HealthPointe for what, a year maybe or something around there?
I think they're going to be coming up on there. She started mid-August. No, she started end of August and he started mid-September. So so they're going to be hitting on their year anniversary. And
Phenomenal. Well, very, very grateful. So, in the intro, I queued up that I was going to do a bit of a unique topic here. Unique not to those of us that are operational in the application here, but of the HealthPointe program, but certainly unique in that we don't talk about it much on this podcast because we're very client focused, very HealthPointe focused on, what is a 6-week cycle, what's the various steps. But I'm going to delve into a bit of the economics of this and to speak more about things from a we talk about in this, we use a term, coach, facilitator, etc. Let me just be clear on that. This is business ownership. Okay. I'm a business owner. Carol, who you just heard from, is a business owner. We're operational in this business. And I'm going to touch on this a bit, a little bit driven by, I think you could pick any week and say, wow, that was a unique week economically. But this past week, there was something that occurred, and I'm not, watching this stuff like a hawk. Hank, I know you kind of catch a thrill from, following things with the markets and stuff like that. But let me just start with something. And again, guys, I'm not going to pretend to be an economist here. In fact, there's two things that I would never want to do a career in. One is as an economist, and the other is as a political forecaster, because both of them I'm pretty much wrong every time. I think the economy is going to be doing this based on this, that, and the other thing. And then, and whether it's a local election or a national election, I've just routinely been wrong time and time again. I just think differently. I think there's going to be different outcomes than actually happen. So I'm definitely not going to, be a predictor here. But that said, if there's one area that I can feel confident in, not a prediction, but in numbers, is to look back in history, right? So I'm not predicting anything here. I'm looking back on the facts. And in this case, it's just some recent things. I'm going to start with that to kind of frame the fact that, and let me kind of begin with the end in mind here. What I'm going to be speaking about is, yes, we talk about HealthPointe in terms of just a 6-week cycle and getting healthy and stuff like that. There is a natural transition for some people that can then move into becoming a coach, becoming a facilitator, becoming, again, a business owner, and make money from this. Why I'm choosing to highlight this right now is because I think that we're, kind of into some interesting territory with the economy right now, with employment, with inflation, and so forth, that just like we say, pay it forward with HealthPointe, right? If Eileen's lost 70 pounds, if Bruce and Eileen have lost 120 pounds collectively, I think it could be argued that it would be selfish for them not to inform somebody else that they could do HealthPointe too, right? And Bruce and Eileen have done that. They brought on many people onto the HealthPointe program. And so they've done the PIF, the pay it forward. Well, it's in that same spirit that I take this approach in terms of an economic opportunity. If you've gotten healthy and you feel almost a moral obligation to at least make it aware to people that you can help them get healthy as well, I take the same notion in terms of economics, and that is, if you know that you got a way to be making money, and there's others around you that aren't aware of that, I think that is, quite frankly, selfish. And if you're sitting pretty economically and you don't have any need for taking on HealthPointe coaching or being a facilitator or a business owner, fantastic. But guess what? People around you, family members, friends, coworkers, maybe they're not sitting pretty like you are. And maybe just like, if you get physically healthy, it would, you still have to reach out and be empathetic to others that might be struggling. I think also economically, if you're sitting pretty, look out around you and realize that, unlike health, where sometimes there's a physical component that you can look and say, well, that person, probably isn't feeling too healthy. You can just see that physically. Economically, people are good at hiding it. Just because they're driving a big car and a fancy home and so forth does not mean that they are in a good economic position. And so it can be a little bit hidden. And so I'd say for that reason, I'm going to make the call that we need to, at this moment in time, kind of open it up. In fact, definitely open it up and talk to more people and make the awareness of this business ownership aspect. Now, there's kind of a push and pull thing going on here. And by that, I mean, in fact, Erica, I think you're a perfect example. You're a poster child of this, in that in this program, on the one hand, we want other people to become facilitators and coaches. That's one of the business expansion models. But on the other hand, we don't want them to do that prematurely. In fact, I use something that I term a micro residency, and that is basically you do the program along with some other trainings, in terms of my case, before I feel comfortable, quote unquote, allowing you or sponsoring you. And Erica, the reason you're such a good example, I think from a resume standpoint, I mean, you just came in just premierly qualified to be a HealthPointe coach right out of the gate. And yet my approach was great. And you were very clear and vocal that you were very interested. You were looking for a way to make money in health. And so despite this resume, you were asked to go through a residency, so to speak, to do the program and to learn by doing and get that education first. Because in this business model, and that's not just, we do that, not, I do that, not just because of the primary reason I do it is from a business standpoint, it's pragmatic. this business model, if you were to onboard into the program, if I was a sponsor and you failed miserably, you did not have customers, you did not have clients, then it could impact my income that comes from this. So it's this real win-win thing, but it's a little bit of this push-pull where on the one hand, we kind of want to recruit. On the other hand, we kind of want to stiff arm. And it's not too foreign. I mean, think of it like universities when they're recruiting students. On the one hand, they want to recruit students, right? On the other hand, you have to qualify. If you want to get into Michigan State University, if you want to get into Harvard, there's going to be entrance exams. There's going to be a selection process. Not everybody that wants to will. And they don't just open the doors and say, you know, write a check, come in. There's a bit of a process of earning your way in and showing that you're ready for that. So, all right, let me delve into this really interesting thing that happened this past week economically. In fact, I can vividly remember, and Emily's on the call here, we were walking, it was on Monday, and we were walking to her parents, my in-laws are staying with us here, and we were walking to the senior center. And I was commenting to Emily that, wow, it's just some really interesting economic data that was showing up in terms of what's called the VIX. Okay, so that's a volatility index, and it was just off the charts. You know, a lot of volatility in the market. The market was really dropping. You know, the Dow, the Nasdaq, and everything else like that. What the heck is going on? Well, with the luxury of a week's worth of time, what was happening is this thing that I'm sure all of you have been just thrilled to learn about. Probably all of you guys are experts on this. It's called the yen carry trade. That was kind of the culprit in a way. And you say, the yen carry trade, I've never heard of that. Well, neither had I really before that. And I'm not going to dig into this big time, but I'm going to say that when you have certain black swan events, like what happened with what's called a yen carry trade, and I'll explain basically what it is, combined with we'll just call it a weak economic conditions locally in the U.S., you can see the type of market reactions that we saw this particularly early part of the week, and the ramifications that has on corporations and jobs and other things that affect day-to-day Americans. So what is the yen carry trade and what happened? Basically, you've got the Japanese, the yen is their currency, and you can basically borrow against the yen, which has historically for a lot of years now been at a 0% interest rate, okay, or near zero. Now, in the US, we have stocks, bonds that even on average are going to give pretty good returns. And in fact, right now, even a T-bill, a US, government-backed treasury bill is in the 5.5% range. So think about being able to borrow at close to zero, take that money and put it into something that's yielding 5.5%. That's in a nutshell what's called a yen carry trade. And it's been going on for a long time. So what happened? First of all, you have to realize that this is done at a massive, massive scale. So there are institutions, hedge funds, banks, and so forth that will take hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars of their own capital, and then they'll lever it, basically get loans against it. And so you can have tens of billions of dollars of yen being purchased and then used in, say, to buy T-bills, and everything's fine, as they say, until it's not. And when it's not is when the Japanese start raising their rates, okay? So Japan has been kind of in an interesting economic state for a while, and they've kind of got this runaway inflation thing going. So just like in any market, certainly the US, one of the levers that the government controls have on trying to control inflation is to raise rates. And that's what the Japanese market did, is they started raising their rates. Now that is big problems when you've got billions and billions of dollars. These institutions have billions and billions of dollars, and they're typically in a margin call situation, meaning if that equation gets out of whack, their assets can start being seized. It's a very, very dicey situation created by the Japanese raising their rates to try to control the inflation that's going on in their country. And suddenly there was just rapid selling going on, most of it algorithmically. Realize that a lot of these institutions, a lot of these hedge funds, is not like somebody like you see in the, the Dow Jones on the floor raising their hands and trading their paper. These things are done with algorithms. It's basically machines making these trades. They see certain markers happening and they just sell. And that's what was happening. And now I know in hindsight, as Emily and I were walking to the senior center, and I was saying, gosh, I don't know what's going on with the market. The Dow's down like, I don't know, some huge amount. And the volatility index is higher than it was in like 2008 during the financial crisis. This means that there's a lot of anxiety in the market, a lot of selling, a lot of activity. The VIX was going bonkers. So what does this all have to do with anything? You take that in combination with where we're at in the United States, okay? Let's take a look at some things. Also this past week was some recent employment numbers, okay? We were expecting X amount of jobs creation in the month of July, and we had very, very less than that. I think there was supposed to be somewhere around, close to 200,000 jobs creation, and I think it came in at around 114,000. Okay, so clearly that employment number has dropped in terms of new job creation, and in fact, unemployment is on the rise. Okay, so we are seeing that as a multi-month trend where that is happening. The other thing that's happening, and this took a while because it was sticky, right? We all came out of COVID where it seemed like, people couldn't get enough workers and stuff like that. We're seeing the decline of the average wage, okay? So we're seeing less job creation, rising unemployment, and a declining wage. A couple other markers, you can look at certain companies and what's happening with their stocks when they announce earnings calls, okay, when they do earnings reports and stuff. And one of the current bellwethers for that is Airbnb, because you see in Airbnb, it's discretionary spending. I mean, we all just talked about it, some of this travel. Well, in basically a day, I think it was back on the 7th, Airbnb stock dropped like 15%. Why? Because this is a very big footprint, understanding, people's spending of discretionary money on things like leisure and travel and, things where, fortunately, those of us in this call, have been experiencing still, but there's a whole swath of the economy such that Airbnb saw a 15% drop. I think it was 15%. It was certainly double digit, a significant drop in their stock price because of anticipated revenue misses, meaning less people are doing that type of thing. Why? Because they're feeling the pinch. And let me just bring it into a local level. Have you been into a grocery store lately? Okay. I mean, you just look at that bill. And in fact, Carol, I think I was commenting to you. So we're up at the cottage, and my dad and I did some salmon fishing, and we had a great result, and it was totally for the memory, and it was totally fun. But from an economic standpoint, I think we ended up with, we'll call it roughly 80 pounds of fillets. I mean, we caught a ton of salmon. Well, at $15 to $20 a pound in Whole Foods, if you're buying salmon, I mean, that's $1,000, $1,500 worth of food. And in fact, Emily and I have noticed that we shop a lot at Whole Foods, and when we're done with our selections, because we don't have to get so much protein, because we get the fish, I get venison, we don't buy a lot of beef and pork and stuff like that, because basically I'm hunting and fishing it. But we saw our grocery bill go down. We might be up in $130 or so at checkout typically, and we saw it drop down to like around $80, $90. That was, when I was getting deer and venison and stuff like that. We weren't buying those proteins, but gosh, now our bill is typically back up where it was before, and that's without the fish and beef and stuff. So I guess what I'm saying is, just at the grocery store, we're seeing this. So what this all translates into, guys, is at the heart of it in HealthPointe here, we have a business model that allows someone, if they're qualified, if their sponsor is agreeable to sponsoring them, to tap into a business. And I just kind of want to walk through those numbers very, very macroly. We have other sessions, Hank and Carol, I know you do, like, for example, a Thursday night session where certainly more details on this and kind of a different language is used in terms of, the business speak. I'm just going to speak on this in terms of just easy understand numbers. Okay, so if someone decided to become a coach, first of all, let's take a look at, what this product is. This product is called HealthPointe. It's a health creation machine, very often used for weight loss. Now, why do I key in on that? If you're in a business, it's nice to be able to use a business that has a natural built-in virality to it, okay? And when you have a business where people are losing weight, literally changing physically, that creates a lot of awareness, even if you're not trying. People come up to you and ask you what you've been doing. So there's a natural virality to it. So let's get into some of the basic numbers. If somebody was to start their business with, and I'm going to talk in terms of what's called MRR, which is monthly reoccurring revenue, and ARR, annual reoccurring revenue. Again, in our business, we get into all kinds of other business speak and PV and numbers and things that sound strange to anybody that's never heard those before. I'm just going to think of any business. You take a look at how much sales do you do in a month? How much sales do you do in a year? In our business model, primarily we're providing coaching, and clients, order world-class products, world-class nutritional products. We've heard about some of them in this call, and they're often doing that on a subscription basis. They can do that where they just have that, set it and forget it. These products come to them, they use them up every month, and they're used up and reordered. And so they can be set up on a subscription basis. It can vary in dollar amount, but a lot of HealthPointe folks, along with their coaching that they're getting, along with this, all the guidance from their coach through the 6-week cycle, they're purchasing products, maybe let's say $150, $200 a month or so. Could be more, could be less, but let's just use that as a typical number. Well, you just have a dozen people that are on the HealthPointe program, and on an ARR basis, you're into kind of a low 5-figure basis. If you got a dozen or so clients, you've got a going concern. You got 20, 25,000 ARR coming on in, and you can be making maybe hundreds of dollars per month. Now you take somebody that just saw their wages go down, or they're feeling pinched because of the economy. I'll give you another stat. 88% of the millennials right now are anticipating job loss. This is millennials, guys. These are astute, trained, tech savvy millennials. 88% of them are anticipating a job loss. Okay. So you take somebody like that and say, gee, without pretty much any risk or investment, some training, some dedication, some prove yourself so that you can become, sponsored. You can be into something where, maybe you're making $400 or $500 in addition to what you got going on to kind of shore up your economic situation for a rainy day. But again, you've got a dozen people that are on the HealthPointe program, or we often recommend you get 20, personally, because out of that 20, you will typically have a handful of them 3, 4, 5 that are really ambassadors for the HealthPointe program. And that's your source of growth, where 20 people very rapidly can come into kind of a client base, a business unit of several dozen people that are ordering products every month. So you've got, 40, 50 people, if you've got 50 people, now you're into a low-level six-figure ARR. So let's just call that, you're operating a small business that's now has a potential to be in a run rate where you're doing about $100,000 a year in sales. Hey guys, that's no small feat, okay? In any business, you open up any business, most businesses don't expect to have that kind of success within years. That's just pay the price, invest, and maybe later you'll start getting some traction on that and some real revenue and some profitability. And so, on something like that, somebody might be making, $20,000 a year or so. Let's call it, close to a couple $1,000s a month, maybe $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month. Now, again, you take anybody that's, feeling the economic uncertainty that's going on right now and just say, hey, you've got world-class products, best in class, literally the largest selling vitamin and supplement brand in the world, the only brand that grows, harvests, and processes its own supplements on its own certified organic farms. And you have contractual rights to that product as well as an other array of products. And you can be operating a business within with dedication, maybe get it up into $100,000 a year in ARR, making, $15,000, $20,000 additional. Well, again, the nature of the HealthPointe program, if you've got 40, 50 people that have lost weight, take a look at Eileen. Again, we just keep focusing on Eileen, or Chris, lost 100 pounds. Guys, this cannot be hidden. People ask about that. How did you do this? Can I do this? Well, if we just kind of go to a level that, is a bit of a benchmark in this business model, and just say, let's just see that 50 people, combination of clients and coaches, tooling in at around 150 people on board. Think of 150 households. You're going to be clocking in around a $300,000 ARR. Okay, very nice small business. $300,000 annual reoccurring revenue, about 150 people, very stable. Any given day, any given week, you might have 2 or 3 of those people not order, and you could have 2 or 3 people that order $1,000 that month. Okay, so, but the law of large numbers and stability starts to kick in when you have 150 people. And now if you've got a $300,000 ARR, you might be making, $50,000, $60,000 or more on a business like that. And, at the end of the day, the product that you're delivering to the marketplace is health, diabetes reversal, biomarkers improving. And so, yeah, so again, kind of bringing it back home, what I would say is the nature of this business model actually has taken a bit of in my view, a very positive correction over the last year or so. That it used to be something where, anybody that could fog a mirror, we might look to sponsor them. Okay. And we would joke about that sometimes. Those days are no longer, because if all you can do is fog a mirror, the last thing I'm going to do is sponsor you, not because I'm trying to be mean, but because you're going to affect my pocketbook. You're going to affect Emily and I's economic future if all you can do is get excited for a day and fog a mirror. We look for people, in my case, again, Erica, cream of the crop from a resume, and has demonstrated with many clients of her own that she was the right person at the right time. But it wasn't until she kind of, was able to demonstrate that she could do that and not just look good on paper. And so for that reason, we have this push-pull where, again, kind of like getting into an Ivy League school. Do we want to recruit you? Yes, but we're going to say you have a certain threshold or bar, and it's not a high bar. You can talk with somebody and get the specifics on that. It's not a high bar, but you do have to be able to meet certain criteria. And most of it's inherent in the program. If you successfully do a 6-week cycle and have, 20 pounds or more to lose, the bar is basically, can you onboard clients? That's the bar. And not a lot, 3, 4, 5 clients will probably do it. Well, if you personally lose 20 pounds, you're probably going to have 3, 4, 5 people grabbing you by the arm and strangling you to help them get started. So the last thing you'll have a problem with is getting clients. But you do have to be able to demonstrate that. And hey, welcome to business. That's how business works, right? You have products and services that consumers enjoy and get value out of it. So it shouldn't seem strange that a bar that you have to pass is that you have the ability to attract clients. If you can't do that, again, that's that push-pull. Maybe you're not right. Maybe you just have to, if you're getting hit with the economic times, you're just going to have to suffer with it. But I wanted to, cover that, kind of take it all from this volatility thing, this strange yen carry trade that rocked the U.S. markets for a day or two, caused all kinds of selling to go on. We've since recovered, but guys, we're still into some sticky zones here with the overall economic picture, with inflation. Are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? I don't know, but I wanted to kind of flip the page a little bit and talk a bit about the opportunity, the business ownership opportunity component within HealthPointe. Since we cover so much, so thoroughly every week on the specific health benefits, the physical health, I wanted to talk about the economic health of the HealthPointe model that we use as well. So, guys, that's my venture into Economics 101. With that, I'll open it up. I did kind of really monologue there. We're probably running a little bit late here, but anybody have any other quick comments before we wrap up for this week? And Carol, if you're speaking, you're muted. Looks like you're speaking.
Yeah, I did mute myself a minute there. Okay. I loved what you said, and I think it's just so spot on. So exactly, I think of a perfect storm. Remember the movie The Perfect Storm? And you've got all these elements coming in for an explosion, and people are feeling it. What I love so much about the whole HealthPointe approach, and I think I would even say health approach, healthy living approach, because sometimes maybe people aren't ready to go on HealthPointe, but we can introduce them into healthy living and then move them into HealthPointe when they feel a little more comfortable with the relationship that they've had with you. So it can kind of be a softer step in, but I just love the whole thing because it's just such a balance of obvious business. And the other thing I think with the HealthPointe is remember that they're not going to be losing weight and being on HealthPointe itself for the rest of their lives. Maybe they'll be on it for a year, maybe 2 years. I mean, depending on how much weight they got to lose. But after that, they have been on the omegas, they've been on the XX, they've been on the protein. They've gotten their gut problem taken care of with this new Begin product or Balance Within. They got their belly fat taken care of with Excess Ignite. We have so many add-in products that can feed into that core base HealthPointe, healthy living approach to things. And so I'm thinking of a gal at church, a couple actually. They place $400 or $500 orders. They're not in HealthPointe. She's skinnier in a rail, but they want to be healthy. They want to be healthy, and they said, "What do you take? We want to take what you take." Well, that'll scare the pants off of them. But they take a lot. They take a lot. And this is a new client. And last month she says, Will was running low on his vitamins, and I got to order them. Can you order them for me? She don't want to be bothered ordering them. Gave me her credit card, password, the whole deal, And she says, "Give me everything that we got last month, and then what else do we need?" And there's people out there like that. Now they don't come a dime a dozen, but there's people out there like that too. And so all this stuff funnels into that HealthPointe model. And so I think you are so right on this. And the other thing, Eric, is you can take a look at the economic situation, but look at the physical situation people have. That's more volatile than the economic. People are sick. They're sick. They're fat. They're sick. and we need to help them. And they might not be ready right away, but we can help some of them, and perhaps some of those can help others. So yeah, great message, Eric. Great.
Yeah, I think it is definitely two major trends that are happening right now. We've been well aware of the physical trend that you're talking about, the obesity rates, guys, and it would be one thing if the obesity was strictly a physical thing. I don't think that we would even focus on it, because but typically what correlates with obesity, with a high BMI, body mass index, is chronic illness, and it usually starts with insulin resistance, and that cascades into, well, according to a leading doctor that we all know, 9 of the 10 leading causes of death. And it's not just, not quote unquote, just death, but the degradation of lifestyle leading to that. When you get type 2 diabetes and you're talking perhaps some blindness with some small capillaries, breaking down, neuropathy, and feeling it, that's not, ultimately that can lead to death, but it's those years of suffering, and perhaps suffering of those around you as well, that are, helping you manage that. So we got that trend. We've always got the economic trend, but I think particularly right now, 88% of millennials, expecting to be laid off, within the next year, a dropping new jobs number, all of that. I just think that there's a lot of people out there. If we just open up our mouth a little bit, there's a lot of people are like, tell me what I can do here. Is this something that I can do? And if so, show me how. So I think it's a real great note on that. Well, thanks for that additional comments, Carol. We will wrap that up. I want to throw a little bit of a teaser. I've done this before on what I might cover next week. So this may change, subject to change, but if I wasn't geeky enough on this one and boring you guys to tears with all kinds of, yen carry trade talk and stuff like that, I'm guaranteed to bore you to tears next week on genetic testing. And so that's something where it's an area that I'm getting some certification and some knowledge on it. And the way it plays into HealthPointe is there are some people that have a genetic SNP, is what it's called. Think of like lactose intolerance, okay? Some of that can be a genetic component. I might have a little bit of fun with genetic testing talk and some of the things that it plays into health-wise, but we'll see. That's next week. For now, we'll put a wrap on this week. Thank you so much for everyone that contributed. I feel like I've traveled around the country from Ohio to back up to Michigan and Colorado. Wonderful stuff. So thanks so much, guys. We'll see everyone next time. Same place, same time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Thanks, Eric. I not only feel healthier, I feel smarter too, economically too.
All right, Larry. Wonderful. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a great week.